One of the things that I love to do is watch a magician at work. They don't have to even be particularly good at it. I'm easily distractible and usually miss the sleight of hand movements. Or maybe I just love the simple joys created by illusions. Magic just seems to be able to change the appearance of anything and make it better. Well, years ago, when I first came to Memphis to interview for the position of Cantor at Temple Israel, I remember one moment especially. Now, you might think that I would recall my meeting with the search committee, my concert with the late Abe Plow sitting in the front row, or other such moments. Well, I remember all of that and more. But one moment stood out above all the rest. It involved our Rabbi Emeritus, Harry Danziger. Now, I don't know if you realize this or not, but Rabbi Danziger has always been an amateur magician. So there I was, standing in the social hall, talking with a number of our members when I noticed Rabbi Danziger standing off to the side of the room with a couple of elementary school kids around him. He was showing him the old disappearing handkerchief trick, and then the disappearing coin trick. And finally, he could cause the contents of a packet of sugar to disappear as he poured it into his open fist. I still think Jeannie's trying to get the sugar out of that suit pocket. Anyway, my point is this. Here was Rabbi Danziger, the scholar, the respected rabbi, the perfect image of the senior rabbi of Temple Israel. Now, warm and cuddly, performing magic tricks to distract the children while their parents interviewed the new Cantor. That image continues to guide me today. More than just an example of the old adage, never judge a book by its cover, that image reminds me that there is always more to those around me. This depth of character is not always immediately apparent. Parenthetically, I mean, Rabbi Danziger didn't go around saying, "Here, let me show you this new trick that I learned." Well, actually, sometimes he did. But instead, it requires us to set aside our expectations, our preconceived notions, our first impressions, as it were, of how this person appears to us and give their deeper selves an opportunity to unfold before our eyes. Well, now you may be wondering what magic tricks has to do with today's Torah portion. Well, let's turn to the portion for this Shabbat and see. The portion of this week is called Va'era, and it opens with the words, Vaydaber Elohim el Moshe, Vayomer elav ani Adonai, Va'era el Avraham el Yitzchak ve'el Yaakov be'el Shaddai, Ushmi Adonai lo nodati lahem. God spoke to Moses and said to him, I am Adonai. I appeared to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob as El Shaddai, but I did not make myself known to them by my name Adonai. So why did God reveal the divine name to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob as El Shaddai, but not the name we have come to associate with the divine creator, that of Adonai? Well, according to Rashi, the name Adonai meant that God had fulfilled the divine promises in their lifetime, something which had not yet happened with the lives of the patriarchs. Therefore, El Shaddai. But with Moses, God was revealed as Adonai because the fulfillment of the ancient promises were to come true in his lifetime. It was not until the promises of hope, deliverance, freedom, and the promised land were in sight before Adonai could be revealed to Moses and the Jewish people. Well, before we experience Adonai, we have to have, at the very least, that same sense of hope and promise in our lives. In each generation, the promise appears to us through the words of our tradition as the God of the generations who have come before us. That continuity of belief and moral guidance has become one of the most fundamental aspects of Judaism. And it is out of these basic Jewish values, these mitzvot, that Judaism guides us to look at the world around us, not with eyes that see only what we want to see, but to the world as it really is. And here's what I mean. By living where we live, I know that Linda and I never see some of the more desperate economic areas of the greater Memphis area. I know those sections exist because I see them on the news. But other than those brief flashes, usually filmed at night, the picture I see is merely a quick glimpse into a different world. It becomes a virtual reality that has has a brief impact on me. Often, I don't even stop to think of what life might be like for those for whom these nightly images are more than virtual. Those images are a reality. So what changed? Not long ago, like the rabbis I work with, I made a pastoral visit to one of our members in their home. Although the home was built at a time when the neighborhood was affluent, thriving, today the area has become so economically depressed that it now resides in one of the poorer zip code areas in Memphis. As I walked up the driveway, scenes of violence flashed before my eyes from one of the newscasts earlier in the week. I don't know if this house was actually involved in some of those scenes. I did know that I was feeling very uncomfortable and wondered why someone would continue to live in such a neighborhood. Did you know that according to a recent survey from the University of Memphis School of Urban Affairs and Public Policy, Memphis, quote, has the second highest poverty rate among cities with more than 1 million people? The author of the report, Dr. Elena de la Vega, also reported that Memphis has a poverty rate of 27.20%, with a child poverty rate of 42.10%. Those figures are astounding. The report went on to say that in Shelby County, 50.10% of those under poverty work full or part-time, and that in the city of Memphis, the percentage of working poor is 49.3%. The report continued to reveal other statistics as well, such as the number of single female head of households and racial inequality figures as regards to African Americans and Latinos. But it was the figures on children that disturbed me the most. Did you know that, according to the 2010 report card from the Tennessee Department of Education, 85.1% of children attending Memphis City schools are economically disadvantaged? That's 85%. And 82% are African American. The statistics are deeply disturbing and emotionally overwhelming. And to tell you the truth, I'm especially disturbed because I don't know. I don't have an immediate fix for all of this. I want to make everything all better, and I know I can't. If it makes me want to give up, can you imagine how hopeless these children must feel? At the same time, as this portion reminds us, God also appears to us in both a very personal and individual way. How we experience God in the world around us reflects how we respond to the world. What we sometimes forget is that this personal reflection of God does not remain static. How God appeared to me, the divine image I had of God when I was a young philosophy student in college, is not the same image I have today. That perspective, or appearance, if you will, changes over time, perhaps even from one moment to the next. This personal image of God is closely tied into how we respond to one another. This image shapes our hopes for the future. And how does God's promise of hope reveal itself in the world? Through us, through the efforts of everyone in the world. Adonai, the Holy One who gives us the strength to help others, appears in the world when we bring the promise of hope to those whose lives are so downtrodden that they have abandoned all hope. I know that as a united community, Memphis could make a difference. But we're not a united community, at least not in my perspective. So that leaves the possibility of change up to me. I know that I can make a difference, even if only in a small way. And I know that these small ways add up eventually and begin to make a difference on a larger path, in a larger way. I know that I can help bring hope. It is this promise of hope, this great dream that guides us, that drives us to serve others. It is this hope that causes us to search our souls for ways to improve ourselves for the coming year. It is this dream that drives us to make New Year's resolutions, to commit ourselves to the betterment of the world around us. So, one of my New Year's resolutions will be to become more involved as our community struggles with the issues of child poverty. Hope and the promise of hope. Can I make a difference? Well, I hope so, but this is my promise. May the coming New Year be filled with blessings for all. Good Shabbos and Shabbat Shalom.